and welcome to ITV News West Country with Seb and Kylie.
Thank you for joining us. The headlines this Monday evening. Lib Dem leader Ed Davey takes a dip in Dorset as he vows to solve the sewage problem in our coasts.
It's really important for public health. There are too many people we hear now swimming in rivers, swimming in seas and getting diseases, getting ill. That's unacceptable.
Also tonight, competition for the ferry route from Cornwall to the Isles of Scilly. A new company promises a faster and cheaper service.
Plus, Plymouth Argyle hit Norwich for 6. We'll show you all the goals.
And with 3 months till Christmas, we find out how toy retailers are faring in the run-up to the busiest time of the year.
Good evening. First tonight, a promise to clear up the country's rivers. That's the pledge from the Lib Dems ahead of their conference. It's the first time they've gathered since winning the Somerton and Frome by-election.
With the general election expected next year, the party's event in Bournemouth is the first over the coming weeks. And with a number of seats now thought to be in play across our region, leader Ed Davey told ITV News the party is nowhere near at its peak and is hoping to make big gains next year. Here's our political correspondent, David Wood.
Sir Ed Davey's been at the helm of the Lib Dem yellow ship for nearly 4 years now. His mission to capsize Conservative chances in the West Country. And his party recently made a splash in a by-election in Somerset. But here in Dorset, it's what's in the water, alongside damp politicians, that's top of the agenda.
We need to get much tougher on the water companies. So far, Conservatives have voted to allow the water companies to continue pumping their filthy sewage into our rivers and our seas. That's got to stop. We need much tougher action from the regulators, from Ofwat, from the Environment Agency, to force the water companies to clean up. They've made billions of pounds of profit, giving it back to their shareholders rather than investing it in the water infrastructure.
Fines, though, aren't they now? We're starting to see fines coming out there. The government is talking much tougher, and water companies, or the sense I get from many of them, is they are feeling under pressure.
Well, I'm glad they are, and it's been Liberal Democrats who've done that.
The party wants blue flags to be flown at rivers that are clean to swim in, similar to the scheme for beaches.
It's just a gimmick, though, isn't it? Rather than an actual policy that could make a change.
I think lots of people want to know that if their kids are swimming in a river or the sea, that it's safe for them to do so. And so this is a serious moment.
At the conference in Bournemouth, the party has axed its plan to increase income tax to fund social care.
Why are you scrapping a long-term policy to raise more money for social care?
Well, actually, we've got a very strong policy on social care at this conference. We're arguing for free personal care. That will cost £5 billion so that people can leave hospital more quickly. A lot of them can get cared for at home rather than going to care homes.
So where's that money come from?
Well, this is the great thing. It's what I call a spend to save policy. We reckon we'll get about £3 billion of that back through efficiencies in the NHS, because you can discharge more quickly and because people can be cared for at home, not in care homes. We would have to find a bit more extra money, but we've said that the next election will have a fully costed manifesto.
And the party is feeling pretty confident about that next election. There have been plenty of celebrations here after their recent success in the Somerton and Frome by-election.
Are we at peak Lib Dem, though, in the West Country?
Oh no, I think we've just started.
The party is now targeting a number of seats across the West Country, including Taunton, South Devon and St Ives. And the recent success in the West Country has attracted new activists coming to their first conference. And they are confident.
Being in the West Country, often we feel a bit neglected by those politicians way off in Westminster. But that's one of the great things about the Lib Dems. They really believe in localism.
I don't think we're at peak Lib Dem. I think we can go so much further. I think one of the things about being here today is there's so much enthusiasm, so much energy, and part of the reason for that is that we've been doing so well in the by-elections.
Millions of people are suffering from the cost of living, NHS is in crisis, and the Lib Dems have policies that are specific and ready to go, and I don't think the other parties do.
Ed Davey believes his party is riding high, but behind all the cheers and smiles, many here know success, come the election, is far from guaranteed.
Well, David, who is reporting there, is at the Lib Dem conference in Bournemouth for us this evening. David, what else is on the agenda this week then?
Well said, the main event tomorrow will be Sir Ed Davey's first major speech since he became party leader. This is their first major face-to-face conference for the past few years, partly because of COVID and because last year it clashed with the Queen's funeral. So I think we can say tomorrow is Sir Ed Davey's probably the biggest day in his political career. The political winds seem to be changing. It's certainly been a very windy weekend so far here in Bournemouth, and he will want to crystallise that tomorrow. He will talk a lot about the blue wall. This is seats right across the south of England, particularly in the West Country, that are traditionally conservative, that the Liberal Democrats believe they now have a chance in. So there'll be messages from here in Bournemouth trying to wind up nervous Conservative MPs. His other challenge tomorrow will be to motivate his activists. They are very happy, as you've seen in my report, but if they don't go away from here full of enthusiasm to get out and about across the West Country and spread the Lib Dem message, well, then it'll be difficult to convert that into election success come the election in the next 12 to 16 months.
OK, sounds like a busy week ahead. David, from a windy and sunny Bournemouth, thank you.
Next tonight, 2 Devon and Cornwall police officers are under investigation for gross negligence manslaughter after the death of a man in police custody. 34-year-old Stephen Reardon was arrested in St Austell in July, but became unwell on the journey to Newquay police station and later died.
Well, let's join Georgia Scott in our newsroom for more on this. Georgia, what more have you found out?
Well, Seb, the police watchdog's investigation began after the death of 34-year-old Stephen Reardon on the 13th of July this year. Police were called to the St Austell area after a car was reported to be driving erratically. Well, following these reports, Stephen Reardon was arrested, handcuffed and transported in the back of a police van to Newquay police station, which is 17 miles away. It was during this journey that officers reported he became unwell. After arriving at the custody unit in Newquay, first aid was administered before Mr Reardon was then taken to hospital by ambulance, where he then died.
And Georgia, what have Devon and Cornwall police, what more of the IOPC had to say about this?
Well, today the Independent Office for Police Conduct has confirmed 2 police constables who were the driver and the passenger in the van are now under criminal investigation for possible gross negligence manslaughter, which relates to the monitoring and care of Mr Reardon during his time in the back of the police van. The watchdog says it's carrying out house-to-house inquiries as well as monitoring body-worn camera footage and CCTV from the station. The regional director of the IOPC has expressed his sincere condolences to Mr Reardon's family and has said Devon and Cornwall Police is fully cooperating with its investigation. Well, Devon and Cornwall Police says its thoughts and condolences also remain with the family and friends of Mr Reardon, and the officers under investigation by the IOPC remain on restricted duties.
OK, Georgia, thank you. On to other news, and a homeless man has been jailed for life for the murder of another homeless man in Exeter. 45-year-old Stephen Cook was stabbed to death by Brian Jewell after they got into an argument in Sidwell Street in January. Exeter Crown Court heard Jewell, who was 19, had been bought the knife the day before because he wanted it for his own safety. He'll serve a minimum of 20 years.
The hosepipe ban across Cornwall and parts of Devon has been lifted. The ban has been in place for 13 months in areas of Cornwall, but due to recent rainfall, reservoir levels are much higher and South West Water has lifted the restrictions. Now, shipbuilders Harland and Wolff say they plan to run multiple ferry services every day between Penzance and the Isles of Scilly next summer.
Well, it'll run in direct competition with the current Selonian ferry, but the company says it will be much faster and cheaper. Graham Lewis reports.
Today's 9:15 sailing from Penzance to St Mary's left a couple of minutes early. Passengers on board faced a journey time of around 2 hours 45 minutes. This is the only service today, with ticket prices around £80 for the trip. Watching the ferry leave were 2 representatives from Harland and Wolff. They're on a fact-finding mission and today announced they will run multiple services every day next summer with a journey time of less than an hour.
Really the point of that is to get 600 people on and off the island a day to improve that capacity and give passengers an option. And I think we look at the price point of that, we see that being, a lot less than where we are at the moment, probably as much as 20-25% less than we are. and then it's looking at the bigger problem to say, what does the islands actually need?
The Isles of Scilly Steamship Company has been running a service from Cornwall to St Mary's for more than 100 years. The current ferry, the Scilly, has been in service for 46 years.
I mean, we've heard some horror stories already of people not being able to leave the island, family members not being able to visit just because they simply can't afford it. And in this day and age, that's not quite right, is it, you know?
On the Isles of Scilly, today's development is being warmly welcomed.
There's no future for these islands if we cannot have good connectivity on this route and have good sea and air links to provide a good service for our community.
The government has set aside more than £48 million from the Levelling Up Fund for new vessels and infrastructure on the route. The Isles of Scilly Steamship Group said earlier this year they've secured a private finance solution for the replacement of their passenger and freight vessels, and today said they had a clear strategy and timeline in place which will see them in service ahead of the 2026 season. The current Scilly carries more than 110,000 passengers a year. Now, with the possibility of fierce competition on the route, both islanders and tourists are likely to feel the benefits. Graham Lewis, ITV News, Penzance.
You're watching ITV News here in the West Country with Seb and Kylie. Thanks very much for your company this Monday evening. There is, of course, still plenty more to come tonight before 6:30, including with 3 months till Christmas, we find out how toy retailers are faring in the run-up to the busiest time of the year.
So early to be talking about that. Well, tell you what, the weather's certainly not chilly enough yet. It was very warm over the weekend, Charlie.
Yeah, temperatures around 20 degrees during the weekend, real late heat for September. But we have got a first-name storm coming in just a couple of days. I'll tell you about that real soon.
First, though, more than half of children questioned in a new poll for Good Morning Britain said they felt anxious. However, nearly 2/3 of parents said they weren't sure their children always tell them how they're feeling about their mental health.
Well, to try to tackle the problem, ITV's latest Britain Get Talking campaign is encouraging families to take time to start conversations with those young people at home. Kevin Ashford reports.
So can I ask you to turn and talk to the person next to you?
Starting a conversation about mental health. It's a subject that students at this school are well aware of.
Mental health does cross my mind sometimes. Let's say when I'm revising, I make sure to prioritise not just my education, but my mental health because it does go hand in hand.
I'm an athlete, so I think of how sports help me with my mental health and how I use it as a coping mechanism. So I use football because I'm passionate about it and it helps me as an outlet.
Talking about mental health, and talk about your mental health, it takes the pressure off you, and it makes sure that those around you, they can understand you and how you're feeling, and building things up is never ever a good thing.
Staff here say they want to encourage similar conversations at home.
Families might say, how was your day? And the students might not always be honest about that. So it's about giving them opportunities to really share how they're feeling so that we can, as a community, really help every single student thrive, because ultimately that's what we're here for.
Listen up.
We need to talk about our mental health.
The latest Britain Get Talking campaign from ITV aims to encourage adults to have conversations with children in their lives as a way of tackling the growing mental health crisis amongst young people. Staff at the mental health charity Mind in Plymouth say there are techniques that adults can use to encourage youngsters to open up.
Give them the space, let them know you're there for them, validate their feelings, it's okay to feel how you feel, it will pass. Keep that door open so that they can walk through at any point in time. And also it's really important, it's difficult sometimes for us as parents to think, well, maybe our children don't want to talk to us. Recognise that, and if they need to seek support from somebody external, perhaps a counsellor, offer that to them as well.
It is going to be staying relatively changeable.
The ITV weather presenter Alex Beresford is among a number of celebrities backing the campaign. He says communication with his teenage son can sometimes be more open if they talk while out walking.
if you sit down, with someone, and if I'm sat down with my son, it can be quite, intimidating, I guess, because there's nowhere to run, is there? But when you're walking and you're in nature in particular, it kind of just relaxes you and you can kind of go on that journey. And I find that the conversations actually last a lot longer. And also, he's more open.
Help us with a different kind of homework.
The Britain Get Talking campaign's being launched in preparation for World Mental Health Day on October the 10th. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Do your homework and get talking.
Great campaign. Now, an investigation is underway after video emerged of a linesman being chased by another official at an under-18s football game on Portland.
Well, the incident happened at the camp in Scilly Stadium at the weekend, and it's now being investigated by the Dorset FA. Well, Ross joins us in the studio. It is slightly worrying when you see these, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, as you say, the footage of this incident is quite shocking, and it was captured by someone at that match, and we can take a look at it now actually. Now, Portland United have issued a statement today, and it indicates there is an investigation taking place within the club and also with the Dorset FA. The statement did confirm it was an altercation involving a uniformed match official and a non-uniformed opposition official. It didn't involve any spectators, but it is another example of some of the abuse that referees and officials are facing at the moment. Now, the video was circulated online by Ref Support UK, a charity that was founded here in the West Country to help officials who've been targeted, and I spoke to the CEO about this particular incident earlier on today.
The referee reached out to us, talked to him yesterday, talked to him this morning. We've advised him to go to the police. He had a real anxious, sleepless night, kept thinking what would have happened if he did hit him, what could he have done? And football needs to realise that the abuse of match officials isn't just a physical abuse. We get just as many calls about the mental abuse they get and anxiety that affects them after the game, sometimes for weeks. No, I'm just as worried as ever that I'm going to receive that call that someone has been killed during the process of officiating a match.
Those are quite strong words, actually. But you have looked into this matter before. Are the numbers getting worse? Are the numbers of incidents?
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, Seb. As you mentioned, we first spoke to Martin actually in April this year. He said then it was a particularly bad situation for the sport, but it does seem to be getting increasingly worse, and that is despite, at the start of this season, body-worn camera trials taking place and points deductions being introduced for a number of teams. He says that there is a lot more that needs to be done to stop football from becoming an abyss of abuse.
Let's turn then, Ross, to matters on the pitch. And it was positive for Argyle, wasn't it? Tell us about that.
Yes, it really was. Now, I think a lot of supporters probably would have been quite deflated after the defeat at Bristol City last week, but a really good win for them at the weekend. Back at home park and welcoming former Premier League side Norwich City, they completely tore their opponents apart. Record signing Morgan Whittaker helped himself to not 1 or 2, but 3 goals in that one, and there was also a stunning goal from Finn Azaz as well. Now, both of those players obviously with the club on loan last year, so great to see them doing well in the Championship. They went on to win that match 6-2, and it marks the first time they'd hit that many goals in a Championship game for 36 years. They now move up to 11th position in the table. And elsewhere, away from the second tier and into League One, Exeter City could have returned to the top of the table if they beat Oxford United on Saturday, but it wasn't to be. The Grecians went down 3-0, conceding 2 penalties in the process. They'd only conceded 4 goals all season and shipped 3 in this game alone. So disappointment for Gary Caldwell and his side. Away from the league for a second, though, a lot to look forward to, obviously, hosting Premier League side Luton Town in the EFL Cup tomorrow.
Right, let's talk boxing. Newquay bomber, Brad Pauls.
Yeah.
That incredible name, incredible fighter as well. We saw a little bit about him last week. Big title fight, wasn't it, this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely, on
How
Saturday.
How did he get on?
Well, he'd already become the first Cornishman to win a professional boxing title for nearly 100 years, and now he has another, the English middleweight title. Brad defeated Mitchell Frisson on Saturday night in round 8. And do you think he's happy about it? You bet he was. You can tell from these pictures here. He also thanked a lot of the supporters who travelled from Cornwall for the fight in London. So a massive congratulations to him. Thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was destined to win. I thought last week when we saw him.
The footage of him training.
It was incredible, wasn't it?
It was
Pretty
really
good.
Very, very good. But yeah, well done.
Ross, thank you.
Now, it's hard to believe, but today marks 3 months until Christmas. Can you believe that? Well, chances are you've not given it much thought, because I haven't, but the retail sector has been planning this for many months.
Yeah, that's right. Businesses from our region have joined others from all over the country at the big Christmas press show. That's looking ahead to the big day, which some say is more important than ever. Lauren Hall reports.
It may feel a bit soon. For the retail industry, Christmas can't come soon enough.
This event brings together online and high street brands from all over the UK. It's a chance for them to showcase their products and to look ahead to what is traditionally their busiest season. And in the current economic climate, many will be hoping it brings some much needed festive cheer.
Among them, Moose Toys, based in St Columb Major in Cornwall. Despite the challenges, they're doing well, but they know for their customers, the rising cost of living's not exactly been fun and games.
We have made sure we've got multiple price points in our range to accommodate for things like that, because we know how difficult at times it is. And we also work with our retailers really closely to ensure things like the multiple payments can be made across the more higher price points, say, but we definitely have noticed things are being purchased later in the year like they did last year.
Many businesses here are having to adapt, with customers cutting back this Christmas.
You do feel under pressure. You're trying to sell your products. You're a business at the end of the day. You want people to buy your products, but you also need to appreciate if people haven't got the money, you can't really expect them to buy the product. So it's about finding that happy medium.
A sentiment shared by online retailer Not on the High Street, which represents quite a few businesses from the West Country.
It's definitely been a challenging time for everyone, but small businesses in particular, and it's kind of been an honour of ours to make sure that we're still championing them through them, because they find it hits them the hardest, for sure.
And how important is the festive season for them?
Really important.
A lot of businesses are depending on it, having faced a number of setbacks.
It's been blow after blow for the retail industry over the past few years. We've had COVID, we've obviously had business rates, there's been the removal of tax-free shopping, the high streets are in decline, the supply chain challenges, and now inflation compounding all of that. It's a really, really challenging time, and it's more important than ever for retailers to have a good year.
For so many across the retail industry, that really is all they want for Christmas. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Do you want me to annoy you now?
Oh, you've done everything, haven't you?
I haven't done everything, but I have started thinking, and I've got a few things for people in my present drawer.
I'm the worst nightmare when it comes to it.
You said you'd do it all on Christmas Eve.
Yes, all on Christmas Eve. When you have very little time, you grab whatever's on there, on the shelves. Yes, there have been some questionable presents.
Don't bother with me. OK, I don't want a Christmas present.
Who doesn't want a can of fruit for Christmas?
Oh dear, it's weather time now. Charlie, what are you like when it comes to Christmas?
I think it's far too early right now. I understand why retailers are doing it, but for me, it's probably more a panic around the end of November, and I just forget all about it, and all of a sudden it creeps up on me.
Christmas Eve, Charlie. Do it on Christmas Eve.
Somewhere between the two of you is where I stand. So
Yeah.
probably quite predictable there.
So you've got another storm there, haven't you?
Yeah, from Christmas to Agnes, and. I mean, looking at that chart, if that name wasn't on there, you perhaps wouldn't necessarily think there was anything really going on. This little area of low pressure here does have quite a bit of tropical air mixed up, and it was way across the other side of the Western Atlantic right now. But just watch as I play it through how quickly it deepens and develops as it works across the Atlantic and towards us. It's that rapid deepening there which causes concern, because that's what gives us really strong winds. And that is why the Met Office has a large yellow warning in place for the time being. It does push through quite quickly. That's the only saving grace. But a lot of the UK will see some very strong winds during Wednesday and Thursday. For us, gusts up to 60 miles an hour, very strong around the coasts, very strong across the moors as well. So certainly wind rather than rain, I think, as this named storm comes through, and a bit of a rough patch during the middle part of the week. But then as we work our way through Thursday, Agnes moves away. We see a bit of wet weather, probably even wetter weather, I think, Thursday into Friday, a small area of low pressure before then high pressure starts to arrive. For the second weekend in a row, it looks like we could be in for some fairly fine weather with a bit of heat as well. Temperatures will stay quite high by day at least, probably around the high teens, if not the low 20s. But although the nights for the next few days will be quite mild, As we work our way through to the weekend and that high pressure sets in, we're probably going to start to see the nights just getting that little bit cooler, something a little bit normal for the time of year. But yeah, for the next few days, it's quite mixed.
Whatever the weather, it always feels like home. Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV West Country Weather.
So then, this week, some bigger changes for Wednesday, but before then, still a good deal of fine weather and some fine weather afterwards as well. But yes, some pretty strong winds coming through and some outbreaks of rain, but temperatures look as if they're going to stay above average at all points, thanks in part to the various areas of low pressure up towards the north and the west of the UK, but they're also dragging in some milder southerly winds. And as Agnes works its way through, I think it is the winds that we'll see most of all. There will be some wet weather on this cold front you can see here a bit later on Wednesday. But for the rest of this evening tonight, it's pretty dry out there. There'll be a little bit of cloud pushing through. It might turn a little bit breezy as we head through the night time. And by tomorrow morning, we'll see a couple of sharp showers working their way up from the south as well. But it will be another mild night, lows of 13 or 14 degrees by tomorrow morning. Tuesday itself, there will be more of a showery day. We're going to see some sharp bursts of rain coming through from time to time. But as you can see, there's a lot of dry weather between, a lot of sunshine between. And as it felt today, it's quite warm where that sun is out. Temperatures again tomorrow up to about 20 Celsius. Although I think that breeze will freshen a little bit from the southwest as we head into the afternoon. And high tide through tomorrow, Bideford about 5 to 4 in the morning and just after 20 past 4 in the afternoon. So Wednesday, Storm Agnes, some strong winds, some gusts up to 60 miles an hour along the coast and some outbreaks of rain later on. Slightly calmer on Thursday, not huge amounts of sunshine, but Thursday night into Friday could be a dose of some pretty wet weather, but then sunshine returns towards the end of the week and into the start of the weekend. It stays really quite warm and mild all the way through as well. But we may well see some more moody scenes such as this one. Kristen, in this view in from Ottery St Mary, a lot of drama in the sky in the distance.
Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV West Country Weather.
Charlie, thanks very much. Now, just before we go, we've got time to tell you about a Victorian pharmacy that's remained untouched for 114 years. The Somerset Pharmacy, which was boarded up in the early 1900s, lay dormant for decades before being discovered again.
Well, it's now on display at Flambard's theme park in Helston. You can head over to our website to have a look inside. Maybe that's where I could pick up my Christmas presents, my last-minute rush. That's it from the two of us. I'll have the late news at 10:30.
And after the break, the ITV News continues with Lucrezia Mellarini. But from all of us here, enjoy your evening.
Bye-bye.